Biografia.
I'd like to take over Glee Club.
You want to captain the Titanic too?
It's the toe-tapping, show-stopping musical that took television by storm.
Our greatest weapon could be the element of surprise.
Glee introduced us to the new directions.
There's nothing ironic about show choir.
Soured our taste for Cheerios.
Listen here, Treasure Trail. We're about to have a smackdown.
Made us fear the dreaded slushy.
Being slushy is like being bitch slapped by an iceberg.
Got us hooked on the verbal barbs of Sue Sylvester.
Oh, hey, buddy, I thought I smelled failure.
We're gonna go extreme, extreme, extreme.
And made Gleeks out of America.
I don't think anyone expected what it became. You know, the lengths that it would reach. This is kind of awesome.
This is fantastic. Amazing.
This is the story of how Glee became more than a hit TV show.
The craziest thing that's ever happened.
It became a pop culture phenomenon that made television and music history.
From the top.
Everybody loves a musical, and anybody who tells you they don't is lying.
Glee is a musical comedy about a show choir with a mission to win nationals, as well as some small measure of popularity within the halls of McKinley High. By embracing everything from show tunes to classic rock, Glee has reinvigorated and reinvented the musical.
What makes Glee work is that it's centered around a choral group. So yes, I mean, we have these kids singing where they should be singing, on a stage and in their chorus room. So it's not that much of a stretch. It's kids who love singing.
Of course, singing in a Glee club doesn't help where it matters most in high school.
Don't you get it, man? We're all losers.
Their casting directors did an incredible job of finding the most talented group of weirdo kids out there. Everybody hates me.
You think Glee Club is going to change that?
It's about, the kids who aren't always represented.
I get a lot of kids who were like, I never had seen a kid in a wheelchair on TV before.
People can look at it and go, I look at Kurt and I see myself in him. Or that happened to me in high school.
I don't want to be the guy that just drives around throwing eggs at people.
That was you?
You and your friends threw pea balloons at me.
I know.
I literally had grown up being one of those kids. I knew what it was like to be in those rehearsals and be singing those songs. I knew it had an audience because I was the audience.
Everybody's got a little bit of a secret. Everybody's got something that is their tenderness, and when they go into the Glee Club, they're embraced for it as opposed to getting a slushie in the face. We're all here for the same reason. Because we want to be good at something.
Even their choir director is on the receiving end of his fair share of bullying.
I don't trust a man with curly hair. I can't help picturing small birds laying sulfurous eggs in there, and I find it disgusting.
Glee moves effortlessly from comedy to drama by touching on the social issues that are important to teens today.
When we see Mercedes or Kurt sing, it's all the more powerful knowing what they've survived. Without a doubt, I've shed more tears watching Glee than any other show in the history of television.
As a musical series, Glee seemed likely to get tossed into television history's dumpster. But Fox took a gamble on a group of singing, dancing misfits and scored big.
FYI, the overnights were through the roof.
A unique mix of comedy, drama, and music has made Glee one of the most cutting-edge series on the television landscape. But the secret to Glee's success may in fact be hardwired into human nature. We all root for an underdog. And the story of Glee starts with a whole group of underdogs, a Glee club from Mount Prospect, Illinois.
Our first group of the afternoon set is from Prospect High School in Mount Prospect, Illinois. They are Mixed Company.
I was in show choir for 3 years in high school, and we were terrible. I knew at the time, what you're doing is sort of ridiculous. It sort of plays on both sides of your brain, I guess. The side that wants to, laugh at it, and the other side that sort of wants to get up on stage and join in.
And in 2005, actor Ian Brennan sat down to write a film based on the experience.
And I was like, you know what? Someone's going to write something about a Glee Club at some point, and if it's not me, I'm going to be really angry.
Undaunted by the fact that he had no idea how to write a screenplay, Ian put himself through a crash course. For a textbook, he selected Screenwriting for Dummies.
And then bought Final Draft, which is a screenwriting software, and then over the course of 4 weeks, wrote this screenplay called Glee. The movie script was much drier and darker, sort of a snarkier, darker turn, because I actually didn't love show choir. Like, it was one of the things that I couldn't really abide that I had done.
But without an agent to handle his script, Ian couldn't get anyone in Hollywood to read Glee. And so for the next 2 years, he was obsessed with getting his script into the right hands. In 2007, though, he caught a lucky break. A friend of Brennan's went to the same gym as a famous television producer.
He was at the gym with Ryan Murphy, and he sort of passed it to him.
At the time, Hollywood producer Ryan Murphy was at the helm of the award-winning and critically acclaimed FX series Nip Tuck.
I read it and I thought, well, I don't think that this subject material is necessarily a movie, but let's do it as a TV show.
And not just any TV show, Murphy envisioned a modern twist on the classic musical.
I didn't want to do a musical where people just broke out into song, and that seemed corny to me. I wanted to do something more rigorous and more as a tribute to sort of pop music.
Brennan worked with Murphy and his producing partner, Brad Falchuk, on a pitch for Glee, the television series. It had very little in common with the original film script.
Ian's script, was so adult that we didn't take anything from it at all. Really, we started from ground zero, and he was very open to doing that.
Ryan and Brad and I working together, we had such I think, disparate talents and very different voices, but we just clicked.
Coming up with some big ideas, coming up with some small ideas of who the people are, and then all these people just kind of came to life out of our heads.
I sort of had this opportunity of a lifetime to be a writer, something that I'd sort of always secretly harbored inside of me, and so it was just amazing.
Ryan Murphy had a previous relationship with Dana Walden and Gary Newman at 20th Century Fox and took the pitch to them.
This was the person who had created Nip Tuck, so we were expecting it would probably be something edgy and dark, and he was pitching a high school Glee Club show. Let's just say the initial reaction was, oh my God. And then Ryan began telling the story in the pitch.
And he talked about this innovative, crazy idea to do a show set in high school that would have about 5 or 6 musical numbers in each episode.
It was so specific. The characters were so well drawn. Ryan was so passionate about it that it just came to life sitting in the room, and we just fell in love with what he pitched.
20th Century Fox bought the pitch, but they're just a production company. The hard part was still ahead, selling Glee to a television network. The concept was unlike anything else on the television landscape.
In 2008, we've got, your Law and Orders and all its spin-offs, and your CSIs and all these spin-offs. The shows that were really succeeding on network TV were these kind of predictable procedural dramas.
The television musical wasn't exactly an easy sell. This was a format that had failed spectacularly in previous outings.
Matter of fact, one of the most notorious failures of all time was a show called Cop Rock. The tendency with Cop Rock for most people was to burst into laughter.
But Glee was no Cop Rock. Walden and Newman took Murphy and his pitch to the Fox television network and its head, Kevin Riley.
And then the next thing we know, they said, okay, write the script.
He gave Ryan the green light to start writing.
We wrote the script very, very quickly. We handed in the script. We got one round of notes in which Kevin Riley said, you need a villain.
And I remember being on this conference call, me and Brad were sitting on a couch, and Ryan was sitting at his desk, and he just sort of sat up, and then he goes, yeah, I think it's going to be a cheerleading coach named Sue Sylvester, and I think we can get Jane Lynch. And Brad and I sort of looked at each other, and we were like, that sounds awesome.
My agent said they want you to play the cheerleading coach. Read it. Do you like it? And it's, Ryan Murphy is offering it to you, which is kind of a lovely situation. In the script, the description of Sue Sylvester in the pilot was Sue Sylvester may or may not have posed for Penthouse and may or may not be on horse estrogen. Well, I said I must play this role. I must.
Hello, boys. Who needs a pick-me-up?
Scene in the teacher's lounge where I bring in the lattes. Ryan yelled out to me from behind the camera. He says, say you like your
scolding.
And so I was like, okay, I know who this woman is. We're going to go extreme, extreme, extreme.
The recipient of Sue's verbal assault would be put upon choir director Will Schuster.
A lot of actors in Los Angeles went out for that part, and every Broadway actor went out for that part.
Tony nominee Morrison was starring on Broadway in South Pacific when he auditioned for the part.
You know, I wanted to do something really, musical, and I thought, I play a little bit of the ukulele, and I thought it was a very teacherly instrument, like an instrument that a teacher would use to teach kids. So I learned how to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I just had a really great audition.
Matthew Morrison is the definition of a triple threat.
Casting one triple threat was challenging enough, but finding enough kids who could act, dance, and sing would prove much more difficult.
Yeah, it was pretty daunting to cast Glee. It was overwhelming. I mean, when I first read the script, I was like, well, this is going to be really a challenge.
And it was a challenge that had the potential to make or break the show. In the summer of 2008, Fox Broadcasting greenlit Glee, the longest of long shots in a genre that had been a proven loser on television, the musical. With veteran comic actor Jane Lynch and Broadway star Matthew Morrison signed on, the biggest challenge became finding the young members of the Glee Club. The producers were looking for players who could not only tackle the overwrought emotions of the high school jungle, but also handle the challenging music and dance numbers as well. It was a tall order for any casting director.
It was overwhelming. I mean, when I first read the script, I was like, well, this is going to be really a challenge.
We wanted to have characters that were archetypes for high school, but we wanted to find a way to twist them a bit and shake them a bit to make them a little bit unexpected.
We needed people who were misfits and outsiders and yet had great talent and great promise, and that's a tricky balance.
And producer Ryan Murphy had one more demand to make on an already complicated casting process.
Ryan really felt very strongly that we go with unknowns, and we wanted to introduce people to Rachel Berry, not a successful actress who you were trying to convince had become Rachel Berry.
In all, they would audition close to 3,000 hopefuls for Glee's young cast, including the role of McKinley High Glee Club's self-proclaimed star.
You need somebody who you looked at and you listened to and you said, okay, I can't stop looking at you and I can't stop listening to you no matter how annoying you might be.
Robert Ulrich had high hopes for a little-known up-and-coming Broadway talent named Leah Michele.
I started working on Broadway when I was 8 years old. My first show was Les Mis in 1995.
Ulrich invited her to join the cattle call.
When I was on my way there, I got into a car crash right outside of the driveway for the Fox lot. I had glass in my hair and little cuts on my skin.
And we said to her, Leah, please, come back tomorrow. And she said, oh no.
Then they didn't believe me that I had gotten into a car crash, so I pulled out chunks of glass in my hair and put it on the table.
Not even a trip to the emergency room was going to stop that girl from getting that part.
I think the rest of the team expects us to become an item. You, the hot male lead, me, the stunning young ingenue everyone roots for.
I was reading with her, and she walked in, and in the original pilot, there was a scene where she slapped Finn, and I was reading Finn's role. And she hauls up and slaps me. And that just shows, she embodied that character, she went with it, and she got the part.
After Leah got the part, one of her friends auditioned for the show, Broadway actress Jenna Ushkowitz.
I was on Broadway when I was younger, and then that's where I met Leah. And we were doing 2 different shows, but the Broadway kid community is quite small, so we were friends.
Jenna read and sang for the role as shy, insecure goth glee clubber Tina Cohen Chang.
And her challenge was to make the character unique and stand out, and she did.
They called me, they told me I got it, and it's kind of a whirlwind.
Very nice. Thank you.
I think that the most difficult role to cast was probably Finn. Ryan, from the beginning, wanted the character to truly be believable as a high school jock. And the challenge was to find somebody who could play kind of clueless but not stupid, and he wanted to be able to sing.
Corey Monteith's acting manager caught wind of a new Fox pilot that was struggling to find a lead.
She's just like, it's called Glee, and it's a singing and dancing show. Can you sing? And I was just like, well, not really.
They sent in an audition tape that showed his musicality.
It was like 2 in the morning, we were watching tapes, and we saw this tape of Corey.
I did a take of myself playing the drums on whatever I found in the office, which was, I looked like a huge dork.
He played this Tupperware, which was very charming and actually very smart because it made him stand out.
It was enough to convince casting directors to ask Corey to come out to LA.
So I got in my car and I drove from Vancouver to Los Angeles. I picked up Billy Joel's greatest hits and the soundtrack to Rent. I was just singing the entire way on the drive down.
The first time I think Corey ever sang in front of anybody was when he sang for Ryan and the Producers, and the second time was in front of the Studio Network.
25 minutes later, he got the part.
Whoa, careful, all right.
Chris Colfer had a much different audition experience. He created his own role just by walking through the door.
Kurt is the fashionable soprano. He's the gay student in McKinley High, and he's the character that I think audiences get to watch grow up and get to grow up with him.
Colfer was only 17 when he auditioned for Glee.
I read the script, and it was, I laughed out loud, and I recognized songs that I knew from Guys and Dolls, from a chorus line. I love the fact that the show celebrates kids just like me, the Gleeks, they're called now. My kind did not have a title before the show came along.
Initially, Colfer tried out for the part of Artie Abrams, a wheelchair-bound outcast with heart.
And he really wasn't an Artie, but I had him read and I had him sing, and I knew that he was so special. So I took him to Ryan, and I said, Ryan, there is not a role for this kid, but I think you're going to love him.
The script called for an Indian student named Rajesh. Still, Robert brought Chris into audition for the role.
So he walked in, and he obviously wasn't a Rajesh.
No, I'm not Rajesh. No, Rajesh died a long time ago. R.I.P. Rajesh.
He was more of a Kurt.
As soon as I walked through the door, Ryan Murphy looked at me and said, "Why do I have a feeling you've been in The Sound of Music?" And I said, well, I was Kurt in The Sound of Music when I was 14.
I have on track or no.
And then lo and behold, when I went to the next audition, they were replacing Rajesh, an Indian student, with this new character named Kurt. And I thought, interesting. And I was the only one there auditioning for Kurt. And I thought, interesting, again. And then the rest is history. And actually my original contracts for Glee, the ones that I signed the day that I got the job, still say Artie 2 because the character wasn't officially in the system yet.
The role of Artie 1 eventually went to a former member of the boy band NLT, Kevin McHale.
My audition was in one of those places that when you go in the room, you can hear everybody's audition, which is horrifying.
He sang one of my favorite songs, Let It Be. I think he did it beautifully.
I screwed up and repeated the same words and did some weird oohs that weren't in the song.
He waited hours after the audition to get word.
I had to wait and die on the inside. I'm like, I'm out. It's been a fun run. I've never gotten this close to something before. I had a blast.
He always tells the story. He thinks he screwed up. I don't think he did. I think he was amazing.
And then my manager called and told me I got it, and I screamed in the middle of the restaurant.
The next member of the New Directions to be cast was Mercedes, the diva in training who refuses to sing backup. Amber Riley got the part, but it wasn't her first time in front of Fox.
Amber had auditioned for American Idol previously, and it just shows that one door closes and another opens.
Not all of the stars had as much singing experience.
My name is Jayma Mays. I play Emma Pillsbury on the show. Emma is a misophobic guidance counselor. The audition process for me was one of the most terrifying experiences of my entire life. I remember the room kind of spinning when I started to sing, and I thought I'm gonna projectile vomit on Ryan Murphy. I magically got a call back. I think they were on crack that day. I'm not sure.
Rounding out the cast were Puck, a teen jock and bully played by Mark Salling, Santana, a mean girl cheerleader played by Naya Rivera, and Principal Figgins played by character actor Iqbal Teba. The final part to be cast was Quinn, head cheerleader and Finn's girlfriend. But the day before production was set to begin on the pilot, the role had yet to be filled. Diana Agron had previously auditioned and got a call back to meet with the casting director. She had to be there in 1 hour.
I was already out of the house, and the notes were, be there in an hour, have your hair straight, and wear something sexy.
We wanted it to be perfect because everybody was so busy that they didn't have time to see her, so it was a lot of pressure on me to make sure that it was right.
My hair was curly, so I bought a straightener and I went to a Starbucks bathroom. I straightened it, went back in.
And sang her song and did her lines and sent the tape off, and she got the part.
I went over to Fox this time, signed some paperwork, was told I started work in 2 days, was very confused as to why I didn't meet anyone. It's not very typical that you don't meet any of your executive producers before your first day of work, so I was pretty lucky.
With the cast assembled, the production team was on the verge of attempting something they had never done before, a full-tilt, unabashed, in-your-face musical with all the trimmings. And they had just 3 weeks to pull it off. On October 10th, 2008, with the cast assembled, production on the Glee pilot began on location at Cabrillo High School in Long Beach. And as with any first day of school, there were challenges.
I remember the first day that I was shooting, I had no idea where to go, and I was kind of shepherded into a big room with all the extras, and literally sat there for like an hour, not knowing where to go, who to ask, like what I'm supposed to do, and finally like a PA walked by and they're like, Chris, you have a trailer. You should probably come with me. And I was like, oh, okay, nice talking to you guys, bye.
We had a lot of actors who had never acted in front of a camera before. You'd have to sometimes tell them, like, okay, it's cool that you said that line turned around because it's sort of natural, but you have to remember that thing there with the big lens on it, that's the audience, and you have to be looking at them. Okay.
We're doomed.
We know now that, when you come to rehearse, you don't have to be in full wardrobe. I showed up the first rehearsal fully dressed, ready to go, thinking like that was it. And people were like, what's his deal? Is he method or what's going on? Nope, not method, just new.
In the pilot episode, Spanish teacher and former Glee Club star Will Schuester takes over McKinley High's Glee Club in hopes of restoring the group to its former glory. With the goal of winning a national show choir competition, Will hopes to transform a group of misfits into a talented team of high-wattage stars.
I need a male lead who can keep up with me vocally.
While the members of his club definitely weren't the cool kids, Mr. Schuester had a plan for recruiting new talent.
First day on set, the very first scene was a scene between Finn and Will. I was accusing him of smoking weed, but I was actually setting him up so I can get him in Glee Club.
I swear, it's not mine. I'll pee in a cup. I'll pee.
Ryan Murphy was directing it, and there was just a great energy, and it felt good. It felt good. We're back in high school again. It was really cool.
Good feelings notwithstanding, the success of the show hinged upon the cast's musical talent. The pilot showcased over a dozen musical numbers, the most elaborate of which called upon the untested vocal and dancing skills of the entire Glee Club. The song was a rallying call for the underdog, Journey's Don't Stop Believin'.
The minute in the pilot script when it said that we started singing Don't Stop Believing, I got such chills and I started thinking about how that song starts, and I went, this is amazing.
The simple fundamentals of how do we shoot the musical number, when do we record the vocals, how do we play this back on set. We had to figure all of that out. There was no rule book that you opened. It was new to everybody.
You think this is hard? I'm living with hepatitis. That's hard.
The first step was to reimagine the song Glee style. Ryan Murphy turned to music producer Adam Anders, who had a track record of working with young talent such as Miley Cyrus and the Jonas Brothers. It was up to Anders and his team to create a new arrangement for Don't Stop Believin', in addition to the other 10-plus songs in the pilot.
The one thing I think I left Ryan with in my first meeting with him was, don't make this music sound like karaoke, whatever you do.
The challenge for Anders would be to turn one of America's most beloved classic rock anthems into a show choir number. Traditionally, not the hippest vehicle for music.
When you put that many voices on songs that aren't intended to have them, it can very easily become like this sing-songy, goofy thing. So that was the hardest thing with that song, because it's not cheesy. That song is epic. So we start going to town arranging. I'm arranging vocals. My partner's arranging on the tracks. We get a demo together. Then I sing the demo with my team. We arrange the vocals and figure out who's going to sing what. This will be Corey. This is Leah. This is da-da-da.
With the new arrangement ready to record, Anders brought the actors into the studio to record the vocals that they would later lip-sync during the filming of the show. Some needed more coaching than others.
Corey had never sung in his life before he met me. That's a big challenge. It's pretty incredible how hard he works to try and get it.
You're good, white boy. I'll give you that.
but you better bring it.
Once the song was recorded, dance choreographer Zach Woodley taught the cast the dance steps.
Don't Stop Believing took weeks for us to learn. Weeks.
It was, I think, hard for some of the actors to wrap their head around, wait, I'm dancing on a show.
The first couple of rehearsals were the worst. And I remember thinking, like, there's no way I can do this forever. This is so rough. I can't dance. What am I doing? I'm way over my head.
My oh my God moment was the first day Corey showed up. I have a group of mini-me's and then one in a chair. And then I also have Corey and I'm like, all right, so how am I gonna make this work? What am I supposed to do with this?
We suck.
It'll get there. We just need to keep rehearsing.
I had no dancing experience. I always maintain if there was a dance audition for the show, I wouldn't have got the job because it was like pulling teeth when I first started.
When you see someone trying so hard and they're really trying, it translates to the screen as endearing, and you kind of, it loses a cheesy factor and it becomes poignant and sweet, and you root for them.
When the time came to film the scene that would act as the pilot's grand finale, all that hard work paid off.
Just a small town girl living in a lonely.
When that song comes in, the magic of just the combination of the perfect song, the perfect emotional setup, a great delivery by the cast, it was just magic. It all just worked.
I thought, oh, this is great. And what I loved about it was not that there were huge production values. They were wearing like red t-shirts on an empty stage. And that's when I thought, oh my God, the people are going to be so excited about this show.
It just felt like we were all a part of something very special.
While the cast and creators felt they had made something special, it was time to show the executives at 20th Century Fox the final result. It was a make or break moment.
When we sat down to watch the pilot for the first time, it was the stakes felt very high.
I remember sort of cramming into a room and seeing like the first sort of long version of the pilot.
It was with tremendous anticipation and nervousness that we sat down.
You know, I was so dazzled by the pilot, and I have to say the experience was so fresh and so unique.
Fortunately, it really delivered.
Unquestionably, that pilot was a slam dunk.
It made me emotional, it made me engage. I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. I cared, and those are the sorts of emotions you're looking to engender in people.
We sent it over to Fox, and then it was the next morning, heard. It was like a very quick green light.
The pilot was a hit with the network, and they ordered 12 more episodes for their 2009 fall schedule.
For me, it's sort of been the first milestone in what had been a very long journey of several years. I sort of had this opportunity of a lifetime.
Unfortunately for Brennan, his opportunity of a lifetime had the potential to come crashing down, thanks to Fox's unorthodox marketing strategy.
It was basically come to, tune in and sample this, and if you like it, you have to wait 3 months to see more of it.
With the Glee pilot completed and 12 additional episodes ordered for the 2009 fall schedule, the Fox network was about to do something that had never been attempted in television history.
They came back to us with this pitch of, let's put a sneak peek behind Idol, and then you'll come back in the fall. And honestly, we weren't sure whether that was a good idea or not.
Fox was hoping to cash in on the built-in audience for song and dance that came with American Idol by airing a sneak peek of Glee directly following Idol's Season 8 finale.
There's 2 time slots that any producer would kill for. One is immediately after the Super Bowl, and the other is immediately after the finale of American Idol.
The problem was, how are you going to get an audience to remember this show from May until September?
I was nervous. There was always sort of that sense that, like, God, they could just yank us and no one would know.
The Glee sneak peek aired on May 19th, 2009.
The sneak peek was successful, but not wildly successful. I don't think anyone looked at the numbers, the ratings, and said, oh my God, we had a huge hit.
And the reviews of Glee were mixed.
People weren't sure what to make of Glee.
Sometimes people don't get the quirkier shows.
And when they saw it, it was just so different, some people weren't sure that it had succeeded, or if it did, if it would be able to continue that storytelling week to week.
But something other than the ratings was creating a buzz. The Glee cast recording of Don't Stop Believin' went to the top of the iTunes chart overnight.
When we all watched the pilot together at Leah's house, and by the end of the first episode, the pilot, Don't Stop Believin' was already #1 on iTunes. I have goosebumps talking about it now.
This is a generation that is accustomed to going to iTunes to be able to have instant gratification.
I think I forgot that people would actually be able to buy the music, and when they actually could, they responded in such a huge way.
I think that was the first sign that we're like, oh, this could be something very special. And it made us all very nervous and anxious.
Fox not only wanted to capitalize on Glee's iTunes tidal wave, but also that energized Glee fans didn't lose interest in the show over the long summer break.
They sent us around the country to like this mall tour, and like we were just hoping that more people than the number of us would show up. Like if we get like 9 people, we'll be good.
Hundreds of kids were waiting at the malls already, so we were definitely a little flabbergasted by the whole idea.
It was kind of amazing, and I think it was nice for us to hear what these kids were saying, being like, thank you for playing us, thank you for playing the losers and the freaks. Like, this is kind of awesome.
Glee started its official first season on September 9th, 2009, to higher ratings than its sneak peek.
When we actually started the season, the regular season, the numbers from the pilot, I think, jumped so much because I think people were, built up that great core audience and people were ready for it.
Less than 2 weeks later, Fox ordered 9 more episodes, making the Glee run a full 22-episode season.
The first time I saw myself on a billboard was in New York City. There was Jane Lynch over my head going like this. I had like my friends come down. I was like, oh, let's get pictures and stuff. It was just a really amazing experience.
Someone asked me for my autograph, and I was so like, wait, what? You want my autograph? And they're like, yeah. And I was so like kind of shaken by it that I misspelled my name. And then I didn't know what to do, so I just crossed it out and did it again at the bottom.
So let your little Glee kids have their little club, but don't pretend that any of them are something they're not.
The phenomenon of Glee extended to the music industry. Fox had shopped around the idea of selling Glee's music early on. The first man to jump on board was Rob Stringer of Columbia Records.
I saw a 2-minute clip of the pilot of Glee, which included 25 seconds of Don't Stop Believing, which became the first song from the show. And straight after that, I just knew that there was something special there.
There were lots of labels that had a chance to work with Glee, and a lot of labels took a pass. The sort of formula of we're going to have a TV show, lots of people are going to watch it and be very passionate about it, and these singles are going to go right to iTunes. So the second you finish that show and have that feeling of sort of affection for this moment or that moment, you can go out and you can make a piece of that your own. That was lightning in a bottle for the music industry.
We're just changing the rule book as to how you can distribute music.
And since then, the Glee cast has smashed records set by some of the most prolific artists of all time.
Every song that's recorded for Glee winds up on the Hot 100 on the Billboard charts the next week. So every time an episode airs, it's like, boom, here's another 5 songs. Boom, here's another 7 songs.
Through 2 series, we sold 35 million downloads and 12 million albums.
Glee has more singles on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart now than Elvis did, than the Beatles did.
I never really thought that I would have a song on the Billboard charts. Every time they announce one of those records, I think that they're lying just to make us happy.
On every level, Glee was a success. On January 11th, 2010, Fox announced that Glee had been renewed for a 2nd season. An ever-increasing array of colorful and talented characters began joining the Glee Club. Transfer student Sam, accomplished dancer Mike, and scene-stealing ditz Brittany, played by Heather Morris. And celebrities lined up for guest star roles.
Kristen Chenoweth, Gwyneth Paltrow, Carol Burnett, Olivia Newton-John. I did the physical video with her.
There was a list that our casting people sent us that was like 3 pages long. And usually, you have people like, oh, so-and-so kind of wants to do it, And this list was like, really? Really?
While stars were lining up to get their music and faces on Glee, what kept the viewers coming back week after week were the gripping stories and provocative topics.
There is sex on this show. People have sex in high school. It's no secret.
With Glee, Fox took a chance on a musical comedy about a misfit show choir and scored big ratings, big hits, and made big stars out of its unknown cast.
Without a doubt, Glee has become a cultural phenomenon, but exactly what it is a little harder to define. Is it a comedy? Is it a drama? Is it a musical? It changes week to week, but also changes scene to scene.
Despite its emphasis on music and comedy, Glee is grounded in real issues that teens face today.
Brian Murphy came up to me and said, "Just so you know, you're about to be pregnant." And I thought, this is fantastic, wonderful.
Originally written as an antagonistic queen bee, once Diana Agron was cast, she brought an unexpected depth to the character of Quinn.
Whatever I did, I'm sorry.
I'm pregnant. I'm really good at finding the motivation behind people's behavior or actions, and so even though Quinn was very tough and kind of determined and all of these egotistical ways, there's a reason for all that. Any person that's like that in real life, there's a reason for that.
Diana really brought so much to the part. And when we started writing for her and when we started seeing what she was capable of doing, we became much more interested in doing even more with that character.
Quinn told boyfriend Finn the baby was his, but the audience knew that it was really Finn's best friend Puck who was the father.
It's okay.
The pregnancy also put the stops on the budding relationship between Finn and Rachel, continuing one of television's most angst-ridden love triangles.
You really are awesome. I'm gonna make it up to you someday, I swear.
Much more unconventional was Glee's depiction of a leading character's sexuality. In the episode entitled Preggers, Kurt opens up to his father.
I'm gay.
I read it and I thought, at first I was like, this guy's going to be, the stereotypical intolerant guy.
If that's who you are, there's nothing I can do about it. And I love you just as much. Okay?
And sure enough, towards the end of the show, they had the great scene between him and his son, and I was like, wow, he really, he's really throws the audience for a curveball, and threw me for a curveball when I read it.
I'm not gay, but I know what it's like to reach out and want to connect with my dad. And so I just tried to make it as real as possible, like what would that feel like to tell a secret you were ashamed of to your dad, and how hard would that be?
To see a really sort of hyper-masculine father who you didn't think was going to be accepting of his child being gay, I mean, I think that might be even more important than the kids seeing, a gay role model. It's also parents seeing a role model for parenting there.
Having his story be so mainstream helps. If it doesn't help overall, then I think it helps individuals at least.
Though Kurt was a hit with viewers, some of his fictional McKinley High classmates weren't as sympathetic. The second season of Glee contained storylines that echoed some disturbing current events.
It happened to coincide with a time in our country where bullying really was becoming an issue.
I had to stop reading fan mail because it was so heavy. Stories and of kids being bullied in high school and saying that, seeing someone on the television going through something very similar with them, help them.
Kurt's heartbreaking journey would take the character to a new school, filled with new drama and a new romance.
I kind of snuck in this, like, the back door into being accepted because people like Kurt, so I always joke that if Blaine didn't date Kurt or wasn't involved with him romantically, I don't think people would like Blaine as much.
Darren Criss had tried out for Glee before.
I went out for Finn, which at the time was a very different character, and I'm a small guy, I'm not a football player. I would never cast me as Finn.
But casting director Robert Ulrich had remembered him when it came time to find a love interest for Kurt.
I cut my hair, I usually have very long shaggy hair. I cut my hair to try to get this part. I wouldn't have told anybody that I cut my hair for an audition if I didn't get it, but I did, so I can tell the story now.
He auditioned on a Friday and started work on Monday.
It's pretty cool for a lot of kids out there that the big love story on TV now is between two kids named Kurt and Blaine. I would have liked to have seen that when I was a kid.
People love Kurt and Blaine, they do, and what's not to love?
Glee's mix of drama, comedy, and music resonated with viewers and critics alike. In its first season, it was nominated for both the Golden Globe and an Emmy for Best Comedy.
When we first won the Golden Globe after 13 episodes was kind of shocking to me. We're like, we're not even a full season yet, and there are so many people out there who believe in our show.
That was really big. That was our first big, kind of wow.
Jane Lynch and Chris Colfer both won Golden Globes for their work on the series. In 2010, the entire cast received the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Comedy. And it wasn't just the award circuit recognizing the cast of Glee. Oprah and the White House came calling.
We were on Oprah and we performed, and then in the same 24-hour span, we got on the plane and went to meet Obama and do this Easter egg roll and perform there for the First Lady and her daughters, and we got to meet him, and it's kind of incredible.
That is something I never thought I'd check off of bucket list. It wouldn't even be on my bucket list because I wouldn't have thought that to be really possible.
Another thing the cast didn't anticipate was an international tour.
We broke a record at O2 Arena in London. We did 7 sold-out shows, so it was remarkable. I mean, this show really affects people, and you get that feeling. You get the feeling that it really affects people's lives.
The tour was even turned into a 3D movie.
As a musician, I always imagined a successful thing for me would be, getting in a smelly van with your bandmates and just touring. I never thought I'd, a year later, be selling out stadiums internationally.
While no one could have predicted the heights Glee would reach, it's easy to see why it resonates with fans.
No matter what character you feel more akin to, there's an overall theme of camaraderie and love and dedication and exploring what you really want to do, your passions in life.
People were kind of ready for this type of a show, for a musical.
I think Glee is telling people, express yourself, get out there, don't be ashamed. Come on, step out and be great. And don't worry about it falling on your face.
Could be any age, from any place, any race, and you can relate to something on Glee. And if you can't, then you could just sit back and listen to these songs that will definitely seep their way into you one way or another.
I'm still wondering when I'm going to wake up and kind of go, yep, see, I told you, musicals won't work in the U.S.
Even now, 3 years later, I'm still in the pinch me moment. I can't believe half the stuff that's happening is really happening.
Like the fact that I'm interviewing for Biography. For Biography! My God! I grew up watching Biography. And look at this mug, this schmo, answering questions about some show that I got cast on. That is surreal. This is surreal. All of this fake library on Paramount Studios in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, California, that I'm doing this is unreal. Anyway.